The election campaign is firing up, and today it was the PM versus the supermarkets. But hold on to your shopping trolleys because the grocery giants aren't taking the hits lying down.
It is a big stick that we intend to introduce.
Day 3 on the trail and the PM's first big policy pledge, declaring war on supermarket price gouging.
We will make price gouging by Australian supermarkets illegal.
The plan? To establish a task force led by Treasury and the Consumer Watchdog that will have 6 months to examine what laws other countries have, including the UK and EU, and come up with some laws of their own.
What actually will constitute price gouging and what happens if a supermarket is found to be price gouging?
We'll fine them with heavy fines to make sure that they know that if they're ripping people off, then they're in the gun to pay a heavy penalty for it.
And what is ripping people off? Is there a certain amount of profit that's too much?
Well, people know, the ACCC will examine that. People know when they're being ripped off.
Now, he says he's going to ban price gouging, but if he can't tell you what price gouging is, how on earth are they going to do it?
Price gouging is when supermarkets are taking the piss off Australian consumers. That's what it is.
The proposed crackdown comes in the wake of the ACCC's damning report handed down earlier this month that found Australia's supermarkets are among the most profitable in the world.
The supermarket sector is an oligopoly dominated by Coles and Woolworths.
Coles and Woolies today pointing out that same report found no evidence of price gouging.
What's needed are measures that tackle the real factors driving higher grocery prices. Rising costs such as energy, fuel, labour, insurance, production, freight and distribution.
Price gouging ultimately is very difficult to prove because in a free market economy we can buy products or services at any cost price and sell it for any retail price we want.
The opposition says it would be more than happy to make price gouging illegal, but...
Got a better plan to this.
Their plan? Divestiture powers that could be used to break up the supermarkets if they're found to be behaving anti-competitively.
Which would be a very tough incentive.
Divestiture, in fact, actually increases prices. Once you make a business smaller, they lose their ability to, source product and attain economies of scale.
So as both sides try to woo Aussies worried about the cost of living, who's wooing is better.
The Prime Minister is as weak as water, and the supermarkets know it and Australians know it.
Economist Greg Jericho is from the Australia Institute. Greg, the PM struggled today. Even the ACCC doesn't seem to have a clear definition of price gouging. So what is it?
Yeah, look, it's really actually quite difficult to define it because you can't exactly say, oh, it's 5% more than they should be or something. It really is just a case of when there are excessive prices being set. Generally, you kind of look at what's happening with the profit margins. I actually think the Prime Minister kind of got it right when he said, you kind of know it when you see it. You know when they're taking the piss. And that's kind of what it really is. So it's really that case of when you know that there are excessive prices being set and certainly above what they would be required to set to make a decent profit.
But is it actually happening, though? Because the supermarket report didn't find any evidence of it.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. The supermarket report, and we've seen the supermarket saying, oh, it found no evidence. Well, they really weren't looking for any evidence because it's not within the remit. As Prime Minister Albanese said today, it's not illegal at the moment to price gouge. So the ACCC has no power to look at prices, no power to actually care about whether supermarkets are charging too much. All they were looking at was profits, and what they found was that Coles and Woolies have got higher profit margins than comparable supermarkets in the UK, USA, in Europe, and so that was pretty much as far as they could go. They really were not looking at price gouging, and so you had all the supermarket lobbyists saying, oh, look, there was no evidence of price gouging. It's like, well, yeah, we're not allowed to look at that yet.
OK, so the PM says he wants to make price gouging illegal, doesn't know what it is except it's taking the piss. How does that work then? What does that look like?
Yeah, what we've been certainly arguing for is a prices commission, similar to what we've got now with the ACCC, which is all about competition. This is something where you actually empower a body, whether it's the ACCC or a new body, that actually has the power to say to Coles and Woolies and other organisations, show us your books and kind of justify your pricing. And the ACCC or whoever this organisation is can look at that and go, yeah, no, you actually are taking the piss. And it's really that, giving someone the ability to look at prices and actually say, if you do charge excessive prices, and this is something that is outside the steps of what the community expectations would be for profits and for prices, then we can act. And you really need to get that in place, because at the moment, we're all just sort of saying, oh, look, it's bad, but it's not illegal, so what can we do? Well, if we actually start getting to the point of, if you're doing prices that are outside expectations, higher than should be really given your costs, then we've got a body in place and the laws in place to act.
So just quickly, the opposition say they'll look at divestiture powers. What does that look like?
Yeah, divestiture powers are basically saying you guys have got too much power in the market and we're going to split you up. Places like America have got it. It's a good thing. I think there should be divestiture powers in Australia. The problem is I'm not sure if it would really work all that well in the grocery sector, because it's kind of like, okay, you force Woolworths to sell a supermarket in a certain location. Okay, who's going to buy it? You know, it's a case of, well, you can't give it to Coles, and is there really another organisation has got the power and wants to go in and sort of take that over? Is it really possible? So I think divestiture powers are more for things like the wholesale sector. I think they'd be really good for finance and the banking sector. I'm not sure whether they'd really do a great deal for the grocery sector, but we still should have them, because we should have as much tools and as much weapons in our sort of laws as we can to really crack down on these things.
Greg Jericho, really appreciate your insight and your time. Thank you.
No problem. It's great to chat.